Hmm. Almost there. Okay,
Very good. You ready to go?
we're ready to go.
Okay. Over to you, Chair.
Hey, thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Hello, Drew, Phil, Ben, Jeremy, and Sarah and Sue Ellen. Thank you for being here tonight. We do not have Carla, so that is in part why it will be a shorter meeting tonight because we will miss all her informative updates.
Lawrence is coming as well.
Oh, okay, great.
So are we calling to order?
Yes, let us call to order. And Lawrence is connecting. Okay, great. So,
Hi there.
Oh,
hello, welcome. We don't
Thank you.
see your face yet, but we hear you.
I'm here.
Okay. So our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have introduction of late items for the agenda? No. Okay, thank you. So, can someone move that the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee approve the agenda for the January 28th, 2025 meeting? Someone move it. Ben, thank you. And seconded. Phil, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That's everyone. Adoption of the minutes from December 9th, Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee meeting. Did anyone have any errors, omissions, or comments on the minutes? All right, and can we have someone move the recommendation that the minutes of the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee meeting held December 9th, 2024 be adopted? I saw Lawrence, thank you. And second, I'll take Jeremy's hand, and all in favor? All right, great, thank you. Public comments. Sarah, do we have anyone joining us? Okay, all right, thank you. And number 4, council referrals. So we had before us the application for rezoning and OCP amendment for 1360 Mount Gardner Road. Drew, are you going to speak to us about that at all, or before we talk about who comments from those that were there, or?
Yeah, I've got a little slideshow, especially with some site photos that might be helpful to anyone that wasn't there.
Super, thank you so much.
Go.
Take
All
it
right, so I'll
away.
go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, as you said, it's the council referral. This address, it was at the October 15th, 2024 meeting that council first had the rezoning and OCP amendment application presented to them, and they referred to the Advisory and Planning Commission, Housing Advisory Committee, and this committee. So I'll skip over I was basically just going to summarize everything that yeah, Claudia effectively introduced it, but yeah, just a quick walk through the site plan that we were looking at. So it was to split one lot into two, and what we're looking right now at the rezoning and OCP amendment to allow that, facilitate that. So onto the site visits for anyone that didn't get to see them. So these are about maybe about a third of the way up the property. So first floor, just looking back down, you can see steep terrain and all that. And then the photo on the right is the septic field area. Sorry, that would be like that would be the ideal location for a septic field on the proposed lot, the newly subdivided lot, or sorry, the lot to be subdivided. These photos are both of the kind of existing cleared area to be used as the kind of obvious easiest site for the potential new home on again on the proposed new lot. And I believe Rosie at the meeting explained so let's say with the photo on the left that's looking straight east. I think Rosie had said something effective that the dividing line between the properties, like the proposed dividing line, would be right around where that gate is, I think. So on the other side, so further onwards from the gate would be, the proposed new lot and the ideal site for the new house. And finally, just for some reason I neglected to take a picture of the actual house, but this is just the garage slash it's sort of used as a cottage. I'll note it's not an official. It's not a not a suite. Doesn't have a kitchen, but anyways, they said they occasionally stay there. And then just a photo. Just to show you just forest back there on the right, but that's that the wooded area on the rear of the property that they discussed possible. I can't remember the name. The conservation development. Sorry, I'm struggling to remember the name. The conservation policy of encourages a 50% contribution. This was nowhere near the 50%, but it was around a half acre, a third of an acre, so that they were proposing to that effect. So anyways, so just turn things back over to the committee for discussion.
All right. And who do we have here tonight who was at the site visit? Sue Ellen, Jeremy, were you there? I thought-
No, unfortunately not. No,
Okay.
I wish.
All right. Sue Ellen, what were your thoughts? We had originally, before visiting the site, we had considered trail linkages and such, but having seen the site, what are your feelings?
Well, I did walk there from near Collins Hall here where I live. So I walked out onto park trails, walked at Killarney Lake picnic area, walked past the picnic area on the lake trail and up to Mount Gardner Road, one of those newer trail linkages that goes up beside Sarah Allen's old place.
Okay.
What was that?
And what did you think about the property itself for potential trail linkages?
Sure. Well, that's why I'm mentioning that I walked there, is because I was thinking, well, how walkable is it? Would I have to go way around to the driveway, that kind of thing? So it was kind of adjacent to trails, just a few doors down. And from where the trail from Crippen Regional Park came out onto Mount Gardner Road. However, then I saw Rosie's vehicle was down at the bottom of the driveway, and that there's that steep paved driveway going up. It's a long, narrow lot. I couldn't really see how you could put a trail in there that would be attractive. It would have to go kind of straight up, and I thought it would be easier to get into those trails from the top, from Hikers Trail or Road, or right from the picnic area, that big new connector trail that goes up. And I didn't see much potential for trails or park linkages, even up at the top, because that's below, I think it's Crown Land up there, or is it, I forget what the adjacent property is up there at the top. Maybe Drew can tell us, but I didn't see, I certainly didn't see a 50% park dedication, and which is our conservation development policy aligns. I didn't see that it would be that much more affordable housing. I didn't see, that's beyond this committee, but I didn't see the trail linkages there either that I was hoping to see. It's kind of I don't know. That was my impression. It was steeper than I thought, and the driveway kind of went straight up in a paved driveway, narrow.
Mhm.
I didn't see a lot of potential. I don't know, but
Yeah, I agree with you. It didn't seem to have potential for a trail linkage. I did see that there had been, a tree removal for the driveway to be put in, and there are areas on the lot that would benefit from having some young trees planted to try and green it up a little better, and thereby providing better greenway linkage with the other forest canopy on neighboring lots. But I do wonder what kind of a precedent it sets if we have in our OCP that you know, there's 50% conservation for rezoning, and there isn't anything possible in with this property, and where does that leave us? And I think if we are to recommend anything, personally, I would feel that we could not promote this proposal, and it would be better left in the hands of other, you know, maybe the Affordable Housing Committee, Advisory Committee, rather than, or we say we disagree with the proposal, given that it can't fulfill the requirements of conservation that the municipality has adopted. What are others' thoughts on this conundrum? Jeremy?
Was there not a provision for cash in lieu of the 5%, or am I imagining that? It's possible that I imagined it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's always an option that we can do. It was 50% though, not
50%. Yeah.
Oh, 50, yeah.
Mhm. Phil?
I'm just looking at all trails map, and the nearest trail is about 500, more than 500 meters away, so it's pretty good distance, and it's up quite steep terrain. There's an unofficial trail, from what I can see, that kind of cuts across and joins up with I think it's one of the skid trails that actually joins up with Hikers Trail Road. It's one of the lower offshoots that heads over towards and joins Mount Gardner Road near Home Farm. That's the only trail that I can see in that area. I can share my screen if it helps.
That would be great to see, if you don't mind.
Sure. Here's my understanding is the property's in here somewhere. Just down, and Bolton Road is here. And so this is the trail network that's shown in all trails. This is Hikers Trail Road here that goes up Mount Gardner. And you can see that it between there and the trail is about, I'd say, I'm guessing at 500 meters, maybe a little bit more, and it's pretty steep. So I think you're right that there's no real potential, I think, to have any connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the trail I came up, thanks, Phil. The trail I came up is the one that joins onto Bolton Road. I couldn't think of the name of it.
Yeah.
But Bolton Road is another potential connector into Crown Land there, maybe in the future.
Well, I do see that, you know, maybe these are the situations where cash in lieu to the Parks Department, in particular for acquisition funds of lands, might be something that should be considered. So if a landowner would like to subdivide and there are no conservation benefits that can be sought, then perhaps a fund that allows for an equal amount of conservation land to be acquired in a more suitable area would be the way to go. But I don't know. Drew, do you know if that is, or Sue Ellen, maybe you're aware, have these kind of negotiations happened in the past?
I'll start. I think what Jeremy was referring to is the 5% park dedication, and that was something else. Whereas what we're talking about here is the 50% conservation development policy, half for nature, and which is they're different. I can't remember what the 5% park dedication is. I think there is a
Or is
That's-
where
uh,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, thanks. I think that might be from the Local Government Act. I think that's a provincial requirement for subdivision, I feel. Whereas the conservation development policy, just a independent policy adopted by Bowen.
yeah, and it's not in the OCP yet, although it may be incorporated as the process goes forward. But right now, it's just a policy of council and the previous council, so it stands. And I can't see how this particular rezoning proposal and OCP proposal could meet it. So.
Right.
The challenge with, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say the thing about cash donations is that's a complicated and perhaps precedent setting as well. But I haven't even thought about that.
Ben?
I just had a question. Is it 50% regardless of the size of the property being subdivided, or is there a sort of level that you get to once you have to set aside that much?
I have the policy open right now, and yeah, it's not based on the size. It's actually worded just a goal that a minimum of 50% of the total land subject to the application is protected from further development. Priority given to protection of environmentally sensitive areas.
Yeah, I mean, so the likelihood is the development of this subdivided property would be significantly less than 50% of the property itself. It's just not, it doesn't sound like it's particularly usable from a parks, trails, and greenways perspective. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say a good proportion of what would be left of the new lot that wasn't the footprint of the new house is already paved driveway. And the remainder, as I said, it could be revegetated to some degree so that it is at least a better greenway linkage. But certainly there are some nice rocky bluff areas. Those would not require reforestation, or that wouldn't be appropriate there. But there are opportunities also on the upper existing, well, the upper lot, that's not the new lot, is has an area that was once cleared for, I believe, livestock grazing, or it was a lavender field. However, or both, and now it is overrun by blackberries. That would also be they're extremely hard to get rid of. I understand that, but if there were some plantings made in that area, then with eventual shading, it would also promote better continuation of forest cover. If we could look at Drew, the aerial view of the two lots again, might give us a better idea. I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is that if we were to say that we don't oppose it, then recommendations to council would include requiring that some revegetation is conducted.
Just while Drew is getting that up, I just so I'm clear, if 50% of the original existing lot was usable for conservation purposes, does that fulfill the requirement? Or is it that the new lot and the existing lot each have to have 50% conserved, whatever? focused on
Uh,
conservation?
It wouldn't matter which land, which of the new lots of land are on. It was 50% of the total land subject to the rezoning.
Okay, thank you.
So in this case, it'd be 50% within the yellow boundary, Drew?
That's correct.
Right, okay. So can't see the as well as I'd hoped the new driveway. Maybe this is an older aerial photo, but yeah, you can see where there are areas that would do well to be revegetated. Just to the left of the red line is where the blackberries have really taken over, and so that would be an area that could be replanted.
Oh,
Certainly,
I remember. Sorry, Claudia, that's
Yeah.
the area that was terraced and where the lavender used to grow. So it's all rocks and terracing under there. But I'm just remembering, sorry, I said earlier that they were the same area, and I think what she called the Rams pasture is separate from the old lavender. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sorry.
Mhm. And
Driveway is pretty clear in Google Earth. And it goes over pretty tight against that blue boundary, maybe even into the area between the blue boundary and the yellow boundary on the south side of the property, south boundary.
I can see it outlined on there.
It doesn't follow the outline quite. It zigzags more. It kind of does a double, like an S curve, and but it's pretty clear in Google Earth.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at what's the wording of the recommendation that is before us. I can probably tell you that because
I can pull it up for you guys, Drew, if you just don't mind unsharing.
You bet.
Thank you.
oh, and I see we might have a little oopsie in the recommendation because it says that the housing
Oh,
advice.
it's happened again.
That's a
I'll fix that
typo.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's no problem. None of us caught it when we approved the agenda.
This has been to a number of committees. Just
Yes, yeah.
Yes, true.
let me just quickly fix this. That's where the wording is now.
Okay, thank you. So can I hear from people, what are their feelings about whether we support or do not support the application?
Claudia, I just have one question for clarification before you go on.
Mhm.
When you talk about, I don't quite understand the definition of conservation, because I heard earlier that it maybe meant that it would be land that would not be developed. Does conservation mean, what does it exactly mean? Does it mean it's got to be preserved as a natural environment, or it's got to be enhanced?
I believe preserved as in its natural state, but Drew, perhaps you have a
Because we've
definition.
been talking about enhancing it as a condition. And I just wonder whether that really is within the intent of the wording.
Right. Well, before we go to Drew, I'll add in that the enhancing is because there is no area for conservation. We would be either accepting or rejecting the proposal without an area being put aside under a conservation covenant, because that's what would happen if it was a more natural lot, that there were areas that could be under a conservation covenant where no future development could occur on within that covenanted area. Since this does not have the opportunity to have a conservation covenant because there isn't quality natural area to begin with to protect, then
Yeah.
it might just behoove us to at least require that there are some improvements made from a natural point of view because of all the clearing that has happened historically, but just to increase the greening of the island, because we're losing green space all the time, every day on Bowen, and it's just, but yes, it's prudent to revegetate where possible.
But would it not be apparent that if you approved a house going there, that the remainder of the property would be subject to conservation in the sense that it could not be further developed?
I would pass that back to Drew or maybe Sue Ellen. They can still build outbuildings, structures elsewhere on the property, so there is no restriction on building structures unless there is a conservation covenant, and there wouldn't be a conservation covenant. Drew or Sue Ellen, do you have anything to add to that?
Just that I pulled up the conservation development policy, and it's basically to ensure that all rezoning applications which increase density outside of Snug Cove Village incorporate these principles and achieve a goal of nature needs half. And so promote cluster development. Any of these rezonings, the idea, like Grafton Lake, that has the big 50% set aside around the lake, and the developments clustered elsewhere. Obviously hard to do that on a mostly cleared and developed property.
Right.
And so an analysis of existing features and environmentally sensitive areas present, incorporation with the goal of the conservation development, with the goal that 50% of the total land subject to the rezoning application is protected from further development. Priorities to be given to protection of any identified environmentally sensitive areas. And Claudia's right, there's a few that on the mossy bluffs there that might qualify. And the means by which the conservation protection is provided, mechanisms such as parkland dedication, protective covenants, or other means deemed appropriate by council. And it refers to the OCP. So I'm interested in hearing from the committee. I'll get a chance to speak to this more on council, obviously, when I'll be there.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Jeremy?
Yeah, given the constraints here, I don't think anybody would really want to deny Rosie Montgomery the possibility of her objectives, given it's pretty important to her being able to stay on the island. It just seems like what you said earlier, Claudia, about focusing on our role in promoting greenways seems to be the basic issue here, to form if there are conditions that they should really focus on that, maintaining a continuity of greenways. I don't know to what extent do we have to hold somebody to the 50% rule? Is that a mandated thing for every property, or is it based on the merits of the case?
Any rezoning.
Any, okay.
As I understand it, unless I'm wrong, Drew?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Ben?
I'm just wondering, I mean, in the absence of sort of assets that are relevant to this committee, Like, are we obligated to make a recommendation? I have feelings about making a recommendation on this that aren't based on what we're doing here with the PTGAC committee. You know, I mean, I just wonder how
Mhm.
relevant our recommendation would be if we can't see something valuable from our perspective as a committee.
I agree. The wording is difficult because it's support or do not support. And I don't feel like we are in a position to do one or the other.
This can also be changed. This is just sort of a draft that to get things
Okay.
started. If you need it to be changed, that's also fine.
Sue Ellen?
I really like what the wording that Ben used is, you know, in the absence of assets relative to parks, trails, and greenways, and our and our role in the terms of and our terms of reference, we have no comment, or something like that. I don't know. Can we? It was just the wording there in the absence of assets relevant to parks, trails, and greenways. Yeah. What would we say?
I just wonder if there, it seems to me that there is a potential relevance in terms of promoting greenways here. But if we're constrained in that respect by the conservation development idea, then there's a real contradiction in it's like being handcuffed in the ability to promote in this instance. So it shows some what's the word? Limitations to the conservation development thing, the way it's worded. This is obviously a case where something could be done to promote the greenways locally. But if it has to be 50% and that really doesn't work, then there's a weakness there. I don't know what other
There's-
people think, but
There's nothing in the conservation language about restoration and that you know, if you don't have assets relevant for conservation, there's no requirement for restoration or that would be that would make up for that.
I was just thinking and rather than a requirement, just a recommendation.
Recommendation, yeah. I
Yeah.
wondered about that too, Jeremy, that it you know, that's probably the least. It's not the least we can do, it's probably the most we can do in this case. If we're kind of saying, well, we don't have anything to go on here, but all we can say is, you know, maybe there's potential for restoration and that should be, you know, maybe take
Yeah.
the place of this.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
don't know how we word
reasonable
that.
to me. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure about wording either, but I will throw out what I would like to see is that we don't just not say anything. And I don't think we need to put in the reference to our terms of reference, because I think this is within our terms of reference if we're going to be suggesting anything to improve greenways. But that, and in case there will be other lots that will, landowners will want to subdivide, and they again will not have, assets that are worthy of conservation. So this is, a good time to think about, you know, what we want a precedent to be with regards to our committee and our responsibilities, so that maybe we say that our committee does not support or not support the application. However, our concerns are that given that there are no assets for conservation, that and then
Comply with
the recommendations that Maybe some replanting to promote greenway linkages to get canopy cover. These are lots that used to have canopy cover and haven't for probably a very long time in some cases, but to increase canopy cover and connectivity of greenways for, with the whole reason we do it, is for the movement of wildlife and plant species, and with climate change, that movement has to be what's the word? You know what I mean.
I think we could, yeah, we could work with this, Claudia.
Thank you, and I
I
will.
think, yeah, I would say, we could put in some things about just increasing, the promoting and enhancing native species
Mhm.
in that, and um,
The other
to
thing, sorry.
just to, I guess, to kind of lead to overall improvement in biodiversity, I guess, of this area,
Mhm.
which is in a degraded state, but I don't know
and
if we need to add all those
movement,
words.
yeah, and movement of plant and animal species across the landscape.
Right.
Movement of plant and animal species across the landscape, and it could be of native plant and animal species. And then maybe we'll take out the earlier mention of enhanced native species. So it will require a little bit of work.
Native species.
Yeah, promote, increase can to promote, I would say, personally, I like, promote and then jump to the movement of native plant and animal species across the landscape and overall biodiversity in the area.
Oops. Hang on, I'm just gonna go to a whole new page because we are.
Sure, sure. And while Sarah's working on putting that together, the other thing I would like to bring up, and I almost wish we didn't know individuals and proponents because it makes it harder to do our job, I think. But one of the things is if let's say this was a 20-acre property and they wanted to split it into 2 lots, and 50%, so 10 acres, would need to be put in under a conservation covenant. That is it's a significant thing. It's a financial hit for the land owner as well, because it does reduce the sale value of those lots in the future, because anyone buying, let's say it's this 20-acre lot, now it's 2 10-acre lots, anyone buying those lots will not be able to develop or subdivide and develop on the conservation covenanted areas. So I want us to consider that for all these scenarios where proponents wish to subdivide and do not have assets that are worthy of conservation, that in lieu, that there should be a fund. This is done all over the place where, it's in lieu of, if someone wants to, well, I won't give examples, but so I do like the idea of us considering some kind of financial compensation for the fact that they are developing without having a conservation covenant. going forward. It's done in Vancouver. If a developer, you know, wants to encroach on an area that's environmentally sensitive, then they can pay to have somewhere else protected, and so that they can do what they want. And it's not great, but it's better than receiving nothing for nature through this process. Does everyone else think about that?
I would think it's reasonable to have an in lieu aspect, cash in lieu aspect for situations like this.
Mhm.
That's
Maybe
my-
that's a separate recommendation. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And maybe it's
Well-
something we just recommend that staff look into
Sure, that council
that aspect.
recommend, yeah, that council
So,
direct staff to develop
yes.
such a
Yeah.
cash and
Yeah,
lieu
that's,
policy.
it's almost a form of bribery though, isn't it? If you come along and say, I'll give you $1 million if you let me subdivide this, then I don't have to obey the conservation requirement.
Well, no, I get see your point. Sorry, I don't mean to say no. However, they wouldn't have that option if they had, if there were 50% available to conserve. It would only be when I did give an example of like a developer doing that. But we don't allow that as far as I can tell on Bowen. But that, you know, if they have no assets to conserve, what do we do in that scenario? Which I'm sure is going to keep coming up. So.
I still don't quite understand why you can't say that 50% of this proposed lot should be subject to a conservation agreement whereby there be no further development. And we also recommend that enhancement to this remaining 50%, enhancement of the biodiversity be required.
Well, it's
Because
like
this-
putting a conservation covenant on a cement driveway. That's what you know, a big part of the lot is. So
Yeah,
you
so it's
can't.
actually impossible.
Yes.
I mean, maybe it's impossible to with this particular property to have a conservation requirement.
Well, that's what we're dealing with. Yeah, that's what we're.
So maybe we should just say that.
Well, I think Ben had that you know, the lack of assets makes it problematic for us to apply.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so
And then you can't really request that somebody make a donation because their property, you know, isn't appropriate for conservation.
but then the alternative is also to turn them down for the subdivision because they're trying to go against what the OCP or the municipality has regulated. So
But they've
they're
regulated in
asking,
good faith. But if there's no potential for conservation, then I don't see how you can require it.
I don't know, Sue Ellen, I mean, or
Maybe
Drew,
this is-
like this is when proponents ask to subdivide and it goes against current OCP, then there are amenities that sometimes they're asked to provide. That
One thing, Claudia, is there's a difference between an OCP amendment and a rezoning and subdivision. And what these folks are asking for is a rezoning and an OCP amendment so that they can subdivide. If I've got that right, Drew?
That's correct.
Yeah. So right now, they're not permitted to have two lots. So they've applied for the rezoning and OCP amendment so that all the schedules and the shapes on the maps, they get a different category so that they can subdivide the lots. And however, the conservation development policy is requires 50% conservation, and if there's no conservation assets, maybe it's 3 recommendations that you want to make. One is that in the absence of conservation assets to conserve, Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee doesn't recommend or does not support, whatever, their proposal. And then the second one is the one that I see on the screen about the replanting. If, however, it is approved, then we recommend the replanting. And then the third one might be something about the cash in lieu idea. However, that leads down the path of dividing every lot on Bowen into smaller and smaller lots in return for a cash payment. And so that's another aspect. But it seems to me they're sort of divided into 3, starting off with Ben's idea about in the absence of conservation assets. Parks, Trails, and Greenways Committee does not support the application with regard to the conservation development policy, which, by the way, I've put in the chat if anybody wants to click on that.
Okay, Sue Ellen, can you say that again for Sarah? In the absence of conservation, singular, we can take the S off, conservation, there we go. Assets, Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory, I guess, do not support the application for rezoning.
I think there was on the basis of the
Due to
conservation development policy.
the conservation development policy that you've shared with us.
And I think at the very beginning there, I said, in the absence of conservation assets to conserve, comma,
okay.
just to make it crystal clear. As a possibility. This is the work of the committee. I'll have my say later, but I'm just trying to help.
And in the
That's really helpful. And then I think then we would say in the event that
I'm just gonna get rid of this.
right.
And
Okay.
in the event that the
How about
rezoning, that the amendment and rezoning is approved, Parks, Trails, and Greenways Committee recommend that that replanting be conducted or be implemented.
Planting.
Or I would say that restoration planting. I would use the adjective restoration planting in front of planting.
yeah.
Because that has fairly specific connotations about what you should do.
Be required.
Be required.
Mm-hmm.
To promote
Promote
movement
movement
of
of native plant and animal species across the landscape and lead to overall improvement. Yeah, I think we want to get the words of greenway connectivity in there.
Yes, we somewhere we've lost we had the canopy coverage.
I think it's to promote greenway connectivity, including movement of native plant and animal species, something like that, including canopy restoration, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Phil.
And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's too many ands.
We can wordsmith this, but that's the essence of it, I think.
Can we have, instead of canopy restoration, canopy oh, I just had it and I lost it.
Improvement.
No, leave it as it is, and maybe it'll come back.
Canopy development.
Uh, um, like continuity, please. Canopy continuity. Thank you. All right.
Sarah, can we go back to the first paragraph? Just want to look at that again.
I'm wondering how people would feel about changing do not support to are not in the position to support.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Ben.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah,
Can
because
also-
originally we were saying we neither support nor
Mhm.
or do not support, and I think that's the right position to take.
Yeah. How about at the end of that sentence, on the basis, I just want to, instead of on the basis, since the conservation development policy cannot be met. Since the requirements cannot be met. Conservation development policy requirements cannot be met. People okay with that? Okay, and then everyone like that pretty well?
Yeah, well, can we look at the second paragraph again, Sarah? Thanks. Maybe we should add, however, in the event that the amendment.
Sure. And to promote greenway connectivity through canopy continuity. An animal species across the landscape and overall improvement instead of to lead to.
Mhm.
Good, yeah, of biodiversity. All right, and what is the feeling? Do we want to have the third one that we recommend that council directs staff to investigate the possibility of I don't like cash in lieu, but like when conservation assets are not available, that maybe we leave it out and we think about it, and it can be on a future agenda as something that we recommend that a council think about. Does that sound okay? Would anyone be upset about that?
Yeah, I think we're in a position to be proactive about points, particularly because that might not otherwise be readily seen by other committees.
Sorry, say that again, Jeremy?
I think it's important to be proactive on those things when they come up, so that to inform council of that there are problems here and
Yeah,
the particulars of certain policies need to be polished, as it were.
right. And so, but you're okay with leaving it off,
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
As long as we
bringing
do
it
it.
up as its
consistently.
own point.
I mean, there was a point when this committee was told that we couldn't be proactive, which caused almost a universal desire to resign from the committee, but that was a different council, so.
That was a
Leave that
much
out.
different time, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, well, unless, but raise your hand if you have anything else you want to talk about. Otherwise, we can go to a vote on this. Okay, so can I have someone move, Jeremy, and someone second, Phil, and all in favor? Okay, great.
That unanimous?
Yes.
And do you want to do the same for the second or include them as,
I thought we were doing both, but we can make sure. So okay, can someone move the second one, Phil, and second it? Jeremy, and all in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now, I do have a question. So, Sue Ellen, this is a very vague, since I'm asking you since you're on council, so we've just made like a somewhat vague recommendation that some restoration planting be done. Like where down the road, like does anyone follow up? Like, or do we need to be more specific or like,
I think,
how
and
does
Drew, you can jump in if you have a better suggestion or if I'm saying it wrong. But I think it would be up to council to in the event of, as we had in those nice clear recommendations, I think they're good, is that council would direct staff to come back with some way of fulfilling a restoration. Like maybe we need more restoration policies. We've certainly done restoration work on Bowen, Quarry Park being an example back in the day, right? And there was another one, I was just thinking about it recently. Anyway, we have, well, Cape Roger Curtis is going to be going into that. Bowen Island Conservancy will be doing a lot of restoration work on the lands that they've just acquired from Metro Vancouver, for example. And I don't know whether we need overall policies or whether council will choose to direct staff to make a plan just for that lot, or whether the whole issue of regenerative nature and restoring natural ecosystems will come up in the official community plan update that's going to be underway. Like it's just getting started, it'll be rolling up, and maybe there'll be a chance for this committee and or individuals on this committee to make recommendations right into the OCP process, updating the official community plan. And then it would be in the official community plan so that when these rezonings come up, and maybe it would affect the conservation development policy and that kind of thing. But the OCP is kind of like the constitution of Bowen Island when it comes to these things. So that's a couple of suggestions.
Okay, would it help to just have one more sentence in the second paragraph saying that we recommend that council direct the park manager to establish a restoration planting plan? So that they like, because they might be as well, like, well, how is this going to come to fruition? And I know that's staff time, but you know,
Sure, you could make another recommendation right now. Just add a third one.
okay, it could also just go in half a sentence with Sarah, if you don't mind putting up the.
It's already been moved and seconded and
Okay, so
passed.
we mustn't
So
fuss.
if
Okay,
it's-
you know what? I can I can maybe shoot Carla an email about this and maybe we.
I think it would be great to have it on a future agenda.
yeah, I've got it as an action item. So I've just reopened that file if you want me to reopen it, but I do have it as an action item for the next agenda.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, good.
All right, okay, that's me. Back to agenda. So, updates, we do have Sue Ellen as, trustee for Islands Trust and, council, update. So, go ahead, Sue Ellen, please.
Okay, a couple of things that might be of interest to this committee. Council did approve the OCP amendment and rezoning, if I'm correct. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure just before Christmas, council approved the similar conservation development kind of application up here on Collins Road that this committee was made recommendations about earlier, the one with the wetland and the cliff bands and the adjoining to the park and the opportunity for trail. So council did approve that. That's right, eh, Drew? Wasn't that just before Christmas?
Sorry, that one wasn't my application. I'm not
Oh,
familiar
okay,
with
never
it.
mind. I'm pretty sure we did. And I'll send you an email if I'm wrong. The OCP update, I've just kind of filled you in on that. I'm hoping that all committees and community volunteers on different committees will get involved in that. We've been 25 years a municipality. So we had a cake just before Christmas and cut it. And it was 25 years since we've done this big arc of becoming a municipality with the kinds of policies and a parks plan and all things that this committee and others have contributed to with the island-wide network of trails. I would be able to say that now. Before, they might have been logging roads and unsecured kind of access, but now I think we can be a walk-on kind of island, island of walks. Anyway, 25 years is a pretty significant milestone. So thanks everybody who's been contributing, especially those who've been contributing over a long period. I've been busy with the Ocean Watch Action Committee of the Howe Sound Community Forum and a new thing called the Marine Planning Circle. So we're different communities from and organizations from around Al Kitsum Howe Sound are thinking about how can we do the same kind of work as we're doing here on Bowen, but for the underwater world and the water column of Howe Sound, so that we can keep the marine ecology healthy and happy, and also be adapting to things like sea level rise and changes as the whales and sea lions come back, which is fantastic, but also as the potential LNG tankers and things like that come in. So marine planning is happening, and I'm involved in that. If anybody would like to know more, let me know. Carla's involved in it too. By the way, council has asked her to spend some time on that. There's a new carbon storage map. Now I can't see it in front of me here, but I thought it was pretty interesting that Metro Vancouver has done a mapping layer laying out where are the high carbon areas on Bowen. So that might fit into the biodiversity mapping that Bowen Island Conservancy is doing, for example, carbon stabilization areas, as well as biodiversity hotspots and other kinds of aspects like rainwater infiltration that could fit into the biodiversity planning and the OCP update. So Bowen Island Conservancy is working with municipal staff on that kind of work as well. We have an agreement with them now. And I'm on the on the budget. We're into budget now for Bowen Island Municipality. So last Monday was a committee of the whole, and you can have a look at the figures and see what's happening with the parks budget and all that kind of thing. I'm not raising any alarm bells, just letting you know that that's there for reference, and we'll be going, it's just the beginning of the process. on this Monday, council took on a conservation covenant for the Bowman Island Conservancy lands at Cape Roger Curtis. So not only did the Conservancy own them, but Bowen Island Municipality has an agreement with them that they shall be conserved. Even if at some 50 years from now, the Bowen Island Conservancy needs to fold or sell or something, they won't be able to do anything to those lands that is outside of the conservation covenant. And and today I was looking at the best management practices for marine docks. So this is more related to eelgrass and any kelp beds and things like that. Just in the area underneath any new docks or floats. This is for the whole Kitsamhow Sound again, but for those concerned with underwater life and baby salmon moving through eelgrass and all that kind of thing. I'm involved in that. Let me know if anybody's interested in looking at that too, either as this committee or as an individual. And on the Islands Trust side, I'm now the chair of the financial planning committee for the Islands Trust. Who knew? And but that just happened last week, and so I'm involved as well in the education and stewardship kind of side of Islands Trust. So we've got a webinar coming up in a couple of days. I don't know if anybody got to the native plants and invasive plants one, but that was a couple of weeks ago, and now we've got coming up here the fire one. Where did it go? I'll send it out by email. Because it's more related to natural fire and how First Nations used fire, and what we need to think about on about fire in the islands living with fire. And so that is a webinar coming up, and I think that's all I've got to say, but I'll send that out as an email to everybody. And that's my report. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen.
Okay.
All right, and then we have number 6 on the agenda is information items. So those were all in our package. And 7 question period, and we don't have anyone from the public with us. Okay, Sarah is confirming that. And our next meeting we have to be determined. Did we want to determine that tonight, or is that meaning we'll open to interpretation?
When maybe it's when we get another referral and when Carla's back and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at on a Tuesday about a month from now, so late February. What do you have any thoughts, Sarah? Should we try and tie something down now, or wait? Is
Yeah,
Carla?
I can. Let me have a chat with Carla and find out exactly what her movements are, commitment wise, and see if I can get her to commit to something.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna have someone move and second to adjourn. It did go on longer than we anticipated, but I appreciate all the thought and energy put in tonight. So can I have someone move to adjourn? Lawrence, thank you. And Ben seconded, all in favor. Good night, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Good night.